This podcast is going to be about the theory of human becoming as developed by Rosemary Rizzo Parse. And I have to tell you that Dr. Parse was the chair of my dissertation, and we are still very close. I am a contributing editor to Nursing Science Quarterly, of which she is the editor-in-chief. Dr. Parse is a professor and former Niehoff Chair at Loyola University of Chicago. She is founder and editor of Nursing Science Quarterly, as I said, president of Discovery International, which sponsors international nursing theory conferences, and the founder of the Institute of Human Becoming, where she teaches the ontological, epistemological, and methodological aspects of the human becoming school of thought. Dr. Parse is a graduate of Duquesne University in Pittsburgh and received her master's and doctorate from the University of Pittsburgh. Dr. Parse's theory is a guide for practice in healthcare settings in Canada, Finland, South Korea, Sweden, and the United States. Her research methodology is used as a method of inquiry by nurse scholars in Australia, Canada, Denmark, Finland, Greece, Italy, Japan, South Korea, Sweden, and the United Kingdom, and the United States. Now, we're going to be discussing the 3 principles of human becoming, and I don't want you to be turned off by the language. I'm going to give you each of the principles, then I'm going to give you a little short story that kind of exemplifies each of the principles, and then at the end I'm going to show how it applies to concrete practice. So just bear with me as we get through all of these wordy principles. Principle 1, she originally said, was structuring meaning multidimensionally is co-creating reality through the languaging of valuing and imaging. But a few years ago, she updated it to structuring meaning is the imaging and valuing of languaging. This means that each individual constructs a reality which is the personal, unique experience chosen as significant. The experiences are not bound by time and space, but rather involve the was, is, and will be all at once, co-created in mutual process with the universe. According to Dilthey, experiences become the autobiography of the individual. In the autobiography, the person has singled out and accentuated the moments which he has experienced as significant. Others he has allowed to sink into forgetfulness. Focal events, the meaning assigned to them, and the manner in which they are interconnected are important, since they incarnate value priorities. As an individual moves onward in life, the events are ordered again and again as meanings change. The change occurs continuously as new experiences alter the interconnected web of meaning for the individual. Co-creating meaning involves the processes of imaging, valuing, and languaging. Imaging is the explicit, tacit knowing of experience. According to Parse, explicit knowing is arrived at through critical reflection and logic, while tacit knowing is pre-reflective and unreasoned. Valuing is prizing and acting on an image. According to Dilthey, to value is to appreciate, love, hate, or resent. According to Parse, valuing is living the cherished in confirming, not confirming. It is a paradoxical rhythm of choosing from possibilities and owning the choices. Languaging is the expression of valued images through speaking being silent and moving being still. With living the paradoxical rhythms of speaking being silent and moving being still, the meaning of an experience is conveyed. Speaking is vocal actualization. Being silent is quiet contemplation. a deep place of no words. Moving being still are expressions of meaning. Languaging is not just the content of what a person says with words, but the whole message is uncovered in the context of the situation. It is the rhythmical moments of silence, the choosing of words and syntax, the intonation, the facial expressions, the gestures, the postures, and that which is not said, and movements that are not made that constitute the symbolic expression characteristic of languaging as a concept of structuring meaning multidimensionally. Now, I promised you some explanations of these wordy principles, and here's one. Principle 1 can be expressed in the story of Chena and her 7 sons. The myth of the sacrifice of Chena and her 7 sons is an example of imaging, valuing, and languaging. Chena and her sons were captured and brought to King Antiochus. Each of the 7 sons was ordered to bow down before an idol, and in turn each son refused and was viciously killed in front of the others. All of the refusals were made because of the prizing of their religious conviction that Hashem had chosen them to be a special people and would not exchange them for another nation if they promised not to place other gods before him. Although Chena's 7 sons considered their lives to be of consequence, they chose to sacrifice themselves in imaging the hopes of maintaining a relationship with their God. In doing so, through speaking being silent and moving being still, they confirmed that they valued this potential relationship with their God to be more important than their lives. Principle 2 is co-creating rhythmical patterns of relating is living the paradoxical unity of revealing, concealing, and enabling, limiting, while connecting, separating. And Dr. Parse changed it recently into configuring rhythmical patterns of relating is the revealing, concealing, and enabling, limiting of connecting, separating. Leonard believed that there is a perfect rhythm within each individual. He described this movement as a paradoxical interplay through which the singular individual comes to be in synchrony with the universe. For Parse, paradoxical interplay is experienced as the coexisting of various dimensions within a unitary phenomenon. A dimension of the phenomenon may be in the fore, while others are in the ground. This paradoxical interplay is illuminated through consideration of the concepts of revealing, concealing, enabling, limiting, and connecting, separating. Now, revealing, concealing is also disclosing, not disclosing. Enabling, limiting is potentiating, restricting. And connecting, separating are attending, distancing. While individuals reveal themselves, they at the same time conceal. What one reveals and what one conceals is different depending on the co-creation of constituents of the situation. No one can tell all that there is about self, since humans are mysteries. Choices are made from a multitude of possibilities that both enable and limit an individual. Parse said, in choosing, the human moves in one direction, which restricts movement in another, and there are both opportunities and restrictions in what is chosen, and opportunities and restrictions in what is not chosen. In other words, each choice closes doors, while at the same time opening others. As one connects and separates with a particular phenomenon, one is simultaneously separated from and connected to another phenomenon. Being close to something entails being distant from something else all at once. There is a rhythm to this process as individuals continuously move simultaneously with closeness and distance. Now here is the Comanche tale of She Who Is Alone, which will help illuminate Principle 2. The Comanche tale of She Who Is Alone illustrates the paradoxes of connecting, separating, revealing, concealing, and enabling, limiting. The Comanche people were enduring a great drought that was bringing famine and death. The people pleaded with the Great Father to tell them what they must do to bring back the waters of life. It was communicated through the medicine man that the Comanche must make a sacrifice of their most valued possession, offer it in a fire, and scatter it to the wind in order to have the rain return. The only Comanche to make the supreme sacrifice was a small orphan child called She Who Is Alone. She offered up to the fire her corn husk doll, her only connection to her mother and father. In sacrificing this special possession, She Who Is Alone was connecting with and separating in a new way from the Great Father, and all at once separating from and connecting in a new way with her corn husk doll and its significant meaning. In offering up this doll, She Who Is Alone was revealing and simultaneously concealing her spiritual and other convictions, including her great love for the memory of her parents. Both no longer having the doll and saving the tribe from the famine enabled and simultaneously limited She Who Is Alone. Principle 3 is co-transcending with the possibles is powering unique ways of originating in the process of transforming, which was changed to co-transcending with the possibles is the powering and originating of transforming. This describes the theme of the third principle as transcendence. It is the moving beyond, a turning with the future, empowering, originating, and transforming. Powering is the pushing, resistant rhythm experienced as one reaches beyond with the possibles. It arises with transcendence, which is fundamental to being. For Tillich, powering is moving beyond in an attempt to escape the possibility of non-being. However, within the human becoming school of thought, one cannot escape non-being, since one lives with the paradoxical rhythm of moving onward with the confidence to be, while living with the risk of non-being in an original way. Transforming is the integrating of the familiar with the unfamiliar as one moves beyond. It is the struggle involved as one shifts focus. In changing focus, the individual entertains the same phenomenon, but they are linked in a unique manner that sheds a different light on the structure and changes the meaning. In other words, as individuals weave new and unfamiliar phenomenon with their tapestry of life, the unfamiliar all at once becomes familiar, and the familiar becomes unfamiliar by taking on new meanings. Originating is integral to the process of transcendence. It is the creation of the new one as one dreams of what will be as it arises with what was and what is. In creating the new, one seeks to be different, yet to be like others. This is the paradox of conformity-nonconformity. While creating anew, one lives a paradox of certainty-uncertainty. One is certain of the was and is, while also being uncertain as they change. One is uncertain of the not yet, and at the same time one experiences certainty, since the not yet is imaged with the familiar unfamiliar. Conforming is being like others. Non-conforming is being unique. Certainty is being sure of the choices. Uncertainty is living with ambiguity. Originating springs from co-transcending with these paradoxes in day-to-day living, imaging new possibles and inventing novel connections. Transforming is integrating the familiar and unfamiliar as one moves beyond. It is the struggle involved as one shifts focus. In changing focus, the individual entertains the same phenomena, but they are linked in a unique manner that sheds a different light on the structure and changes the meaning. In other words, as individuals weave new and unfamiliar phenomenon with their tapestry of life, the unfamiliar all at once becomes a familiar, and the familiar becomes unfamiliar by taking on new meanings. Change is the rhythmical process of struggling to integrate the unfamiliar with the familiar. The pattern of the individual arises through the integration of new discoveries, while continuously becoming. Principle 3 is epitomized by the Indian myth of Manu. Manu is a hero who escapes a flood and through a series of sacrifices renews the human race. Manu was compelled to make these series of sacrifices while being uncertain of the future. He was experiencing the pushing, resisting rhythm of moving ahead with confidence while simultaneously living in the risk of non-being in the world. In making sacrifices, Manu was co-transcending with the possibles by weaving with the familiar now with the unfamiliar not yet of becoming. More importantly, Manu lived with the uncertainty of sacrifice while conforming, not conforming, since there were no assurances that the human race would flourish anew or that he would remain without them. Human becoming, then, is structuring meaning multidimensionally in co-creating rhythmical patterns of relating while co-transcending with the possibles. Well, by now, you should be asking yourself, what the heck does this theory have to do with nursing? In my mind, it explains a lot about the behavior of our patients. And here is a concrete example. You are a nurse on a medical surgical unit, and you have been taking care of a newly diagnosed type 1 diabetic woman, Alma. You have spent several days teaching her about nutrition and insulin administration, and the importance of exercise, and how to manage her diabetes in times of illness, and the interventions for low blood sugar. Alma is eager to understand her disease and prevent herself from going into DKA and being hospitalized again. She can plan her diet and knows the signs and symptoms of hypoglycemia and the actions to take. She also can measure her blood glucose levels and administer the correct dose of insulin. When she was discharged, you were certain that she would be compliant. However, several months later, Alma has returned to the unit in DKA again, and her condition is critical. Her blood sugars are in the 600s. She is ketone positive, and she is in danger of cardiovascular collapse because of her severe dehydration. She is also comatose. You once again work with her, and she begins again. Using the 3 principles, we can explain her behavior. Principle 1 is about the meaning that people assign to their reality. While being hospitalized initially for DKA, Alma's reality and what she valued was be a compliant patient and learn all about her disease, and so she did. However, unbeknownst to you, in the months that followed, Alma lost her husband and daughter in a violent car crash. This led to the loss of her home and insurance because she had not been employed for several years and could not find a job and was thus forced out of her home. She had very little money and had to choose between food and her insulin, so she decided to take half of the insulin. Additionally, Alma was very depressed. So what Alma valued changed from being a compliant patient to being concerned with staying alive and being sheltered. Principle 2 is about the paradoxes of life. The paradox of enabling and limiting can be seen in Alma's decision to forego insulin. In not taking her insulin, she is able to purchase food, but in doing so, she was limited in taking care of her disease. Principle 3 is concerned with transformation. As Alma recovers and begins to take control over her disease, she is looking forward to the future. You assist Alma by getting in contact with a social worker who is very helpful in finding agencies that will assist Alma in obtaining insulin, syringes, and monitoring strips. The social worker was also able to find a psychologist to work with Alma's depression. Alma's hope is that she will attend school and find a job so that she can support herself. As you see, human becoming is not about interventions that nurses can do. It is more about how to be with a patient and put yourself in their world and bring your presence to them to help as they choose patterns of health behavior. And I hope this has helped you understand a little bit about the theory of human becoming.